You guys good to go? All right. Call the meeting to order. If you would join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stoddard, could you do a roll call?
Angelina Barnes.
Here.
White Handspike. Jason Hansman.
Here.
Brad Stoddard here. John Tramontana. Lisa Truscott.
Here.
Brad Weaver.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you. Is the motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Or moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. Our first item is Mr. Dotson, presentation.
Thanks for getting me on the agenda, and here to talk to you a little bit about something that came out of our student support team, which meets weekly. We find that no matter how many intervention nets that we have a handful of students who typically are subject to a lot of factors within their life that is outside of their control that can contribute to attendance issues, and primarily credit deficiency. So one of the things we began talking about at our SST meeting is, what about an alternative route to a diploma? And the Michigan Department of Education has some things that we can do under what they call innovative programming. So an overview of this program, we would be giving kids an alternative route to diploma. At DeWitt High School, we have students currently at 31 credits to graduate, and within that 31 credits are the 18 Michigan merit credits that the state requires to earn a diploma. We're primarily going to target juniors and seniors. So why I mentioned the 18 credits is in innovative programming. We're going to have that be our base for earning a diploma. We're going to target our juniors and seniors primarily. That doesn't necessarily mean a sophomore couldn't be a part of the program. It just means that that's typically not who's going to fall into place there. It makes sense for. Learning sessions, we're looking at Mondays through Thursdays, 2:45 to 4:45, where students would be face-to-face. Friday would be a lab day. They would still have access to their courses, and they could complete that work on Fridays as well. They just wouldn't be in the school building. We would need one certified staff member to oversee this program, and their core content is going to be provided by Apex Learning, which is also our credit recovery. We have credit recovery licenses through Apex Learning, certified curriculum provider. We looked at some of the data over the past 5 years. There was an average of 14, a total of 56 DeWitt students that had to look for education elsewhere. 14 students, the average ends up being approximately $125,000 in funding. But on the larger scale impact that I see is that we're sending these 56 kids, not we're sending them, but they're choosing to be educated in another system, and at about 42% chance is what I found that they're going to have in getting a diploma. So to us in SST and folks at DeWitt High School, that's not acceptable. We want to provide something for these students. Our philosophy is that this program is going to be offered to those kids who, like I said, they have a lot of issues within their life, within their family life, whether it's extended family, whether they are in, they're essentially had to grow up too fast. They're needing to provide other things for their family. Potentially, and you'll see a list later, but it'll talk about students who are considered homeless under McKinney-Vento, and have a lot of disadvantage that is outside of their locus of control. It's a cooperative effort between parents, instructors, and the kids. We're going to have a lot of individual meetings to have individual plans for this student on how they're going to complete their curriculum. But within that time, they're going to be doing a lot of meetings with the program director, with administrators, with counselors, if they have an IEP, with their special education teachers, to ensure that we are giving them real practical tools for their situation to have success after high school. We don't just see a kid struggling, throw a couple things at them and then hope it works. We have a very extensive process at DeWitt High School, which starts at Tier 1 or our general education classrooms. And teachers are very good about trying to make accommodations within that environment. And Mr. Depker often talks about 80%. We hope that 80% of our students have success in that tier of our instruction. If students need additional support, they can be referred to our SST, which I said again means weekly. And we can try different things. Does that mean we need to go to a Tier 2 intervention? Does it mean all the way down this flow chart that we need to start considering special education services? So what we're finding is once you get through all of these different interventions and all of this different data, and we're still struggling to help that student find success, whether they have an IEP or not, some do and some don't, what else do we have for that child who has 8 credits at the end of their sophomore year? So we think that innovative programming could help this small number of kids, but get 100% of them to earn a diploma from DeWitt High School. So here are just some of the things bulleted. I won't touch on all of them. Some of them you're probably aware happen often in classes at Tier 1 and Tier 2 interventions. I highlighted in green a couple of things. Targeted conferences aren't new at DeWitt High School, but there's something we haven't done officially or formally in a while. We brought that back this year for some juniors who were in jeopardy of being credit deficient going into their senior year. We did institute a check and connect with Mr. Malore. He's our testing center coordinator. He does a fantastic job connecting with kids because a lot of times, as you know, the connection with the child, they need that connection, they need to feel purpose and importance within our building. And Mr. Malore is one of those links that we've used to do that. One of the most powerful things I see on this list that I love is our links program. We have high school kids who are the approachable type kids, but they have had a lot of success and they're very good at finding ways in which they can help their peers be successful. That's really the most powerful, and as that program has extended into the middle school, very excited to see what that does, not just for students, but for our school and our community as a whole. Some of the things that we're going to look at for next year is the targeted conferences, not just for at-risk juniors, but for all students who are at risk as far as not earning their credits. That could be for a lot of different reasons, but we're going to target kids who are just not gaining credits toward their diploma. And we also acknowledge that through some additional community outreach that parents need to have maybe some more skills and resources to support their child's learning at home and to hold their kids accountable. One of the things that I'm working hard on as part of my goals with Dr. Spickard is to be better at communicating to parents and giving them what they need fundamentally and foundationally as far as when things are happening, where they can go to get help. This would be a more targeted, explicit workshop style, where instead of potentially, again, this is all potentially in lieu of like our spring conferences that aren't well attended, is this something where we take some folks and we go out into the community and we host some workshops, Infinite Campus for parents, how do I hold my kid accountable, what's out there as far as substances and abuse for kids, and how can we help parents have resources for those types of issues. So I'm excited to do a little bit more of that community outreach and help our parents, because if you look at the content that kids are doing now, especially in their junior and senior year, it can be quite difficult, quite complex. 9th grade at-risk seminar course, I was very excited about this. Mr. Chris Stalen, who did an amazing job, I've heard a couple of years ago with our freshman synergy class. We did have a group of identified freshmen who maybe were struggling more than most coming into high school, but the synergy really formalizes that. It puts them with Mr. Thalen for a class in the first 9 weeks when they're here, and class the first term, and then first 9 weeks they're here, and then they stay in his seminar for terms 2, 3, and 4, so that he gets to check in with them all year long. So to give you an idea of kind of timeline of where we started and where we're at now, I'd say it was right around the end, maybe the middle of 9 weeks 1 of this past school year. We were noticing a pocket of students at multiple grade levels that were fitting this description, like what can we do for these kids, and they were leaving. So now kids come in and out of schools for various reasons, but there was that average of 14 that were like, it's not like they moved out of state, it's not like they were going to another school for a specific reason. It's like they didn't have any other choice. They had to go somewhere else to try to get a diploma. In the fall and winter, we looked a lot at data. What is it telling us? Who are these kids? What are their challenges, to try to identify what is going to be best suited to try to put them on track for a diploma. And again, it was kind of like this innovative programming, and really it came down to the reduction of the credits that they would have to get and the time in which they would have to attend school. So winter into spring, I started talking about this to the staff as a whole, our leadership team, Dr. Spickard, Mr. Spagnolo, Mr. Depker has been instrumental in just helping through the process. We did meet with the board subcommittee on curriculum. That was a great meeting. I think very encouraged by all of it. But I also understand that this is new, and that DeWitt High School history, we talk history, DeWitt High School has had an alternative ed program before. I'd say the difference, not knowing a lot specifically about that program, the difference here is we don't need a separate area to do it. We can do it right within our building after the traditional hours. We can do it with current staff. And the kids are still a part of everything that we're doing, just not the traditional school day, okay? You'll see in later documents, we're talking athletics, being involved in band, the arts, dual enrollment, CC RESA. And we did submit the application for the hours waiver on June 13th. We anticipate that we'll hear back from them soon. Rationale, why are we doing this? One of the biggest things and most important, I'll talk about this and then I'll move on, is the hope. So I was fortunate enough to run a program like this in my last district. And one of the most powerful pieces was that first meeting I had with, I think, the 7 or 8 families and kids who were going to be a part of this. And once I explained what it was, after the questions of, so you mean I have this many credits? How many do I need now for a diploma? And these are 16, 17-year-old young men and women who, for whatever reason, whether it was the district's fault or not, had felt pushed down, that they didn't have a purpose within our system, that the school was out to see them struggle. And it made me feel so good that when I said there's light there, we can get you there, there's hope. The collective sigh of relief and the weight that came off of those families, some were grandmothers, some were their kids were there by themselves because their parents couldn't make it because they had to work. But the fact that they knew that they now could, no matter what happened, they could get that diploma, it told me the program was going to be a success. And it was. It was. Time, we can reallocate resources, purpose, essentially to be transparent. Time is, those kids who need that much help take a lot of resource from the traditional setting. If we give a program to them that's more appropriate, that is actually a win-win with that kid has a chance and our resources aren't being stockpiled on a small number of kids, whether they're at the top, bottom, wherever. And the purpose is we don't want to send our kids, our DeWitt kids, have to go somewhere else. We want to provide that for them, and we want to keep their funding here so we can keep all of our great programs and systems in place. We did want to make sure that the Michigan Department of Education and our state auditors were on board with us. So Mr. Depker and I met with an entity, I think it was Mr. McNeil, from Michigan Department of Education. He gave us some advice. We asked him, hey, is this something we can do? He said, absolutely. He was pretty open to a lot of different ways to do it. So we took notes, and then we met with our pupil accounting auditors, as we know they're the ones who are going to check to see and make sure that our I's are dotted and T's are crossed to get our funding. And they kind of brought that scope down into what I knew was probably the answer. And that's the way to make sure that we're accounting for attendance, make sure our teacher of record is set, make sure we're meeting all of the nuances of the 50D law, the virtual learning laws, through pupil accounting. I have been lucky enough to manage a lot of that myself throughout my career, and they've made it a lot easier. You used to, if a student wasn't there, it was automatically you had to do that two-way mentor contact. That's a month worth of proving that you've had contact with a student. They put in an alternative assignment completion. Our plan is to have these kids rear ends and seats on count day. And that's something that I did in my last district innovative programming, and it made it so much better having the kids there. This is the flexibility guide. There's a link within this presentation, but to give you a little bit of cliff notes, Michigan Department of Education application for the reduction of hours is located here. It gives you essentially the flexibility that we would like to apply in this program. Okay, I believe a standard school year is about 1,098 hours of instruction. Is that right? So we would be able to do less. Okay, so it allows us to reduce that, but still get full funding for these students because the state is understanding that their situation is different. Here are some of the questions that came up as we were tackling this. Diploma differences in transcripts. You know, do you have a DeWitt innovative programming or alternative ed diploma? It's a different diploma. We have a very black and white answer on that. Pupil accounting said your transcripts and your diplomas must be identical. Now, there is a difference though, because if I'm an institution, a university, if I'm a training center, and I see a transcript A of valedictorian at DeWitt High School, transcript B of a student who went through our IP program, well, what's going to tell me the difference? It's the courses in which they took. This one's going to have 31 credits with letter grades. This one is going to have 18, maybe a little more, with credit or no credit. And the courses are going to be titled Apex Learning. Okay. So what it does is, yes, diploma path, but it does reduce some options when you're talking about if I wanted to go to the University of Michigan. That's going to be tough to meet that standard. Okay. So everything aesthetically looks the same, but they don't mean the same thing, if that makes sense. Athletic eligibility, yes, assuming all MHSA eligibility requirements are being met. If students were to go back and forth, I don't think this would happen too much, but maybe that's the carrot. That student is, it's really important for that kid to be in the traditional setting. They're so credit deficient that we need to give them a semester in IP. They prove themselves, they do great, they get themselves back to good standing as far as credits. Then at a semester or at the beginning of a new year, yes, they can come back into the traditional setting. And for some kids that was a goal, and I'd say I think I had 3 different kids out of probably 42 over the years that did that, and one actually came back in and received a diploma in the traditional fashion. Program cap, we wouldn't want to see any more than 20 kids. We wouldn't want to see any less than 5. And it's simple. The program can be there. If we don't have 5 kids, great news. We don't run the program. If we have 8, then we should run that program. Give those kids a chance through innovative programming. Can they graduate early? Board policy doesn't change here. If they were in a situation where they could and there was good reason to, and you guys were to approve it, they could graduate early. If we're in that situation, that'd be amazing. Staffing logistics, we talked a little bit about that. It'd be 1 certified staff instructor, usually certified in 2 different subject areas that are appropriate for grade level. And what we do there is if, let's say it's an English and history person, they serve as the teacher of record primarily for all English and history classes. As far as math classes, we then add a co-teacher to that to meet the teacher of record requirement, and that would be a math certified teacher. Doesn't mean that math certified teacher has to attend and even instruct them math, because the highly qualified teacher is within the Apex learning system. But we still have to have a teacher of record. Program admission, I'll try to hit the ones that aren't repeats. But we needed to have, if you're going to apply or you're going to be referred to this program, you have 8 or fewer credits by the end of your sophomore year. Okay? If you have more than that, then no. We still have interventions in place. We still have time. We can keep you in the traditional setting. So we definitely wanted there to be a cutoff because, believe it or not, innovative programming could be looked at as the path of least resistance. And you have actually stellar student who just wants to get through high school quicker. That's not what this is for. You have a student who maybe is sabotaging some things and wants to get into that IP program. It's going to be evident that that's happening. They wouldn't be eligible for IP. This is for the kids who need it, who are making the effort, who are trying, and usually due to things outside of their control, they can't do it. Some of the things we'll look at too is 31A at risk. There's a whole checklist for what means 31A. McKinney-Vento, like I said, homeless students, students who qualify for 11T would all be eligible, we'll still have to meet the credit deficiency requirements. If you have an IEP, usually we don't have to change anything, but when it comes down to the amount of time that you're in a special education environment, meaning with your case manager or with a special education teacher with 10 or fewer kids who also have IEPs, if that is something we need to change, we have a meeting, we adjust, and we do an amendment to the IEP to make sure that you are getting the time and support that you need. Sometimes virtual meetings take place, sometimes case managers come to the sessions, and then what I've done is I've either flexed time with them or they've been able to earn some compensatory time with like an hour off or the $40 contractual stipend for subbing for a class. Students meeting with counselors, that's great too. They're always available for virtual meetings, you can do that, but they also come in when we're doing career nights, when we're doing, they're gonna get all the same information. We're gonna make sure between our 3 counselors and our administrators that if somebody needs to be there to communicate information to these kids, we're gonna make sure that they get it. You're gonna have access to all of our announcements, all the Google Classrooms provided by each of the counselors as well. The big part is going to be that program director reminding them to check it and how to get organized with managing their time. So, coming in July, a draft of the handbook will have some additional language, hopefully to address this new programming. We're asking for your support and encouraging you to take a look at a lot of the information that's presented. There will be some minor adjustments, but I didn't want to put too much in there. I think I did do a graphic just showing over, since 2019, the number of kids by grade level that we were looking at that would be potentially eligible for the program. And you have all this, and if you have questions that come up even after, that's totally fine. But are there any questions now, or you can ask later, whatever you prefer?
I had a few that you answered along the way, so.
Oh, good.
I just want to say thank you for your effort in putting this together. I very much supported it at the curriculum committee and happy to see it.
Awesome. Thank you. I can't take all the credit. Mr. Depker, he's a ninja with this stuff. He's awesome.
Good team.
Yeah.
Thank you both.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Going on the limb, I'm guessing we don't have any public communications tonight? There are none. All right. It's the recommendation by Superintendent Shanna Spigot that the Board of Education approve, adopt, and accept the following items for immediate implementation and appropriate action. The minutes from the budget hearing on June 12th, 2023, and the regular meeting from June 12th, 2023. Do we have a motion? So
Support.
moved and supported. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We have one action item tonight, the DAA negotiations. Ended up going pretty well. We have a tentative agreement within the parameters of our previous discussion. So it's the recommendation by Superintendent Shanna Spigot that the Board of Education approve the contract for the principals and other administrators of the DAA for the 2023-2024 school year, with the authorization for the superintendent to execute the contracts by June 30th, 2023. Do we have a motion?
So Support.
Moved and supported. Any more discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Still no public communication, I'm guessing? All right. Superintendent's report.
I just have a couple of items. So we have round 2 for our Herbison Woods principal. We have 2 wonderful candidates coming in tomorrow, and thanks to Brad for being a board rep on that committee. Negotiations have gone well, so DESPA and DA are finalized, and DEA, we have a tentative agreement that we hope to bring to you at the July board meeting. Transportation is moving to group stops, and that has been communicated last week, and those posts, those groups spots will be on the website this week. And I just want to thank Jason for his service. Jason will be leaving us for CC recess, so this is his last board meeting, and just really appreciate all of his help. And I am finishing my 2nd year, so thank you for allowing me to serve the district. I wish this could have been the first year because it's been a pretty fantastic year, and I'm looking forward to year 3.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe next time.
All right, no questions? Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Support. All in favor, please say aye.